Welcome to Ladies Talking Love, Season 3, Episode 17, Tips for When You Feel Touched Out. It's Ladies Talking Love, a community of women uncovering more joy and fulfillment in sex, as we learn from experts and amazing women like you. Together, let's create a world where women's sexuality is celebrated and understood, beginning with our own. I'm your host, Ariel Finlinson. Let's talk love. If you have kids, you have probably felt touched out. Sometimes you just reach your threshold and you're like, I cannot be touched anymore. It is just too much. And first, I just want to validate you that this is so normal. Little kids especially can take so much from us with all the touch and care that they need. With a baby, you might be nursing or cuddling or rocking to sleep, swaddling. With toddlers, sometimes they can be so clingy and want you to be right next to you, and they're crawling all over your shoulders and back and neck and on your head. And sometimes you just need a break. Today, I want to give you a couple of tips for when you feel touched out. Because even though feeling touched out is so normal, I don't want that to interfere with the touch you are able to receive from your spouse. I want to give you a picture and some tips of what touch from your spouse can be like so that it doesn't fall in the same category as feeling touched out, that the touch from your spouse is different. I want it to feel different than the overwhelming and too much touch that you get from your kids sometimes. But before jumping in, I just wanted to let you know about my free masterclass from touched out to turned on. It starts next week. And this is the week that you can sign up and save your seat. I'll be doing 3 live masterclasses from February 6th to February 13th, so it's just in time for Valentine's Day, and I will be giving away a fun, simple game that's perfect for Valentine's Day, and every single person who shows up live will get this game. Every single person. And this game may push you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but sometimes we need a little something to push us into the discomfort, as was talked about in a recent podcast episode, that leaning into discomfort can actually be a catalyst to more connection and more desire in your relationship. So I'm going to give everyone who shows up live a game that they can play on Valentine's Day that is so simple, and all you need is a set of face cards, and then I'll tell you what else you can do with that. So make sure and save your seat. From touched out to turned on, we are going to dive into 4 myths that make it almost impossible to access desire. And by the end of the 1-hour workshop, you are going to go away feeling empowered with the tools you need to start creating the sex life that you deserve. I'll also be doing a live Q&A at the end, so go ahead and sign up for the event, ladiestalkinglove.com/masterclass, or use the link in the show notes and show up live. But without further ado, let's talk love. This episode today is pretty quick, but I just want to help give you 4 tips for when you feel touched out. The first one is to find what type of touch is filling for you. Sometimes the touch that we get from our kids doesn't feel great. Sometimes they're climbing all over us. Sometimes we might even get hit by them. So with your partner, find touch that is fulfilling and not draining. The touch from our partner doesn't need to feel like another way that drains us, like sometimes we might feel from our kids. We want the touch that we experience with our partner to be something that feels supportive. It's touch that strengthens us and rejuvenates us. So for me, this type of touch can look like a long hug, a soft kiss, or just walking past them and having them touch my back. And that touch doesn't mean, hey, I want to take you and go have sex. Like, this touch is just to say, hi, I'm here. I love you. I support you. And for me, I've been able to separate those types of touch, because even after a day of feeling touched out with my kids, often the touch that Kyle and I share feels different. And I think part of it is just this mindset shift of realizing that Kyle touching me doesn't mean he just wants to have sex or that I need to touch him because it's one more thing on my to-do list. Our touch is something that can rejuvenate us and help us feel strengthened and supported. So I hope that this is just a good thought for you to talk with your partner and figure out what type of touch supports me, what type of touch supports you, and how can we incorporate that type of touch so that even if we might feel touched out from our kids, the touch we receive from each other feels supporting. And that doesn't mean to say there are days sometimes where it's just like, okay, I actually do not want to be touched today, but I hope that that might be more the exception than the rule. Number 2 is to schedule non-sex days. I definitely can relate and know that there is sometimes this sense of fear when your partner touches you because you may think that they're touching you because they're starting to initiate sex. And so if you lean into that touch, it might feel scary because you might not be in the mood to have sex, or you might have one of those days where you're feeling touched out and you only want a certain type of touch, and that doesn't include sex. And so if you schedule non-sex days, that can be a great way to know that the touch that you're getting isn't going to lead to sex. It can help you learn to lean into touch that feels good and supports you. It can help you explore your arousal without feeling pressured that this touch is going to lead to a sexual encounter. Or then when you have a day where you might have sex or schedule sex, you can do what it takes to help yourself start moving into the mood and be open to that sexual encounter. Here's my tip number 3. Make space for yourself just like you allow space for your children. Sometimes, as parents, I think especially as moms, we can feel guilty if we need a break. We may feel guilty when our child is having a tantrum and wanting us to be there, but maybe we're starting to feel uncomfortable or touched out or unsafe in ourselves because we are just done. They have pushed our buttons and we are done being with them. And sometimes I know I have felt guilty where I feel like, okay, I shouldn't reach this threshold. I need to be safe and be able to stay with them. But I've realized that for me, actually, to be a safe parent and to make it so that my child can see what it looks like to be a safe person and to take care of myself, I sometimes need a break. And I need to say, all right, I can see that you want me to be with you right now, but I actually need a break because I need to go calm down. I'm feeling touched out. I feel like I need some space. I will come back in whatever, 5 minutes. I'll come back when I'm ready. And this sets the tone to show our children how we are taking care of ourselves to manage strong emotions or to calm down instead of lashing out. And I think this is a really important thing that just like we allow our children to take up space, we need to hold space for ourselves in motherhood just like you do for your kids. You deserve to eat that candy that you got for Mother's Day, right? Have you had that happen? I like get a candy or something for Mother's Day and the first thing my kids want it. Now, if you don't want it, whatever, do whatever. But if you want that candy, it's yours. Take up space. Hold space for yourself. Take time to sit and read, just like you would encourage your child to be alone and read if that's something they want to do. And just like relationship expert Dr. Morgan Cutlip recently talked about, if you need to go to the doctor, make space and time for you to get there. Make it a priority to go to the doctor when you're sick and need a checkup or you're wondering what's going on. Don't wait until next year because you're too busy. Make space for yourself and hold that space. And I love what Ralphie said in the last episode, Ralphie Jacobs. She talked about always creating a path back to us. As a safe parent, we can always create the path back. Even when you are showing your children that I am taking up space and I need space right now, I will be back. Or if you need space by helping your child take the space they need because they need to be alone for a bit, I'll be here when you're ready. I am here ready to snuggle you or read you a story when you're ready. But first, I need you to take space to calm down. And I think this is a powerful thing to hold space for yourself, just like you hold space for your kids. And my last tip is to remember that everything in between sexual encounters is foreplay. Sex educator Kristen Hodson talks about this, that from the last sexual encounter to the next, everything that is happening in between that is part of your foreplay. And so think about that. What is happening between your sexual encounters? Are you connecting emotionally, mentally, and spiritually with your spouse in a way that is helping you feel loved and supported? How are you connecting in non-sexual but physical ways? Are you holding hands, snuggling, hugging, kissing, giving each other a back scratch, a head rub? How are you connecting in these non-sexual ways that are helping you feel connected instead of sometimes this feeling of like, you haven't talked to me or touched me in a week and suddenly you want to have sex? Like, I don't want to have sex with you because I don't feel connected at all. So I think it's so important to focus on that time in between and make sure that we're doing things that are connecting us and helping us feel loved. Some other questions to consider. Do you both support each other? Are you talking kindly to each other? Is your relationship a safe place to discuss conflicting views and opinions where you might not agree, but there's room for both of you to share and show up authentically? And I do want to point out that sometimes as a woman, it might feel like my spouse hasn't talked to me or touched me in like a week and they want to have sex with me. But that might be their way of saying, hey, I'm feeling disconnected. I want to connect with you. And so I think talking together about what you both need to be able to feel safe and connected enough to be sexual. And your spouse might be reaching out sexually because that's an important way he feels like he can reconnect with you. Or maybe it feels like a safe way to re-engage and start feeling connected with you. Whereas for you, you might want to have been talked to and touched in non-sexual ways to feel connected enough to have sex. Or maybe you guys are flipped. Sometimes our gender stereotypes are flipped and you're the one reaching out sexually and your spouse is saying, hey, I need something more than just going right to sex. And so having these conversations about how we want to stay connected in between sexual encounters and what helps us both feel safe and loved are really important to foster a great relationship and to make it so that we can connect physically without having the way we're connecting take a toll on our touched out threshold. So quickly, let's just review the 4 tips that I shared today. And I hope they'll start some great conversations between you and your partner to figure out how you can work together to support each other and not feel quite as touched out sometimes at the end of the day. So the first one is to find what type of touch is fulfilling for you and not draining. The second is to schedule non-sex days. The third is to hold space for yourself, just like you hold space for your kids. And the fourth is to remember that everything in between sexual encounters is part of foreplay, and that connection is so important. I also want to remind you to make sure and sign up for one of my 3 live spots for my masterclass From Touched Out to Turned On. We're going to dive into 4 myths that make it almost impossible to access your desire. And you are going to go away feeling empowered and ready to start creating the sex life that you deserve. So you can click on the link in the show notes to register, or you can save your seat by going to ladiestalkinglove.com/masterclass. I'm so excited to see you there and to get to do a live Q&A and to have my very special giveaway for every single person who shows up live that is going to set you up for a fun Valentine's Day evening that might get you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but hopefully will be a great way to connect and share some laughs and enjoy some time together. As always, thanks for talking love. Thank you to all of you who listen and join me on this journey, and to our Ladies Talking Love team who make the podcast possible. Thanks to our sound wizard, Kimberly Demers, and our miscellaneous task whiz, Jana Norman.